Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground video podcast. My name is Brian E. Roach, and we are brought to you as always by our partner and sponsor, TSE, Total Sports Enterprises, who, by the way, has a great event coming up. If you haven't heard about it, it's in December. They just finished a great event with Shake and Bake, Ryan Shazier, Vince Williams, Jack Lambert, and Joe Green, as well as Tommy Okun, the Coca-Cola kid. And they got another huge event coming up in December for Franco Harris, Barry Foster, and a couple other running backs that I can't remember off the top of my head. But if you want to check them out, go over to tseshop.com. You can get advanced tickets for the events. It's very cool stuff. I'm going to try really hard to get out there for the Franco Harris signing. That'd be awesome. But this is the Steel Video... Bleh. Let me try that again. This is the Steel City Underground video podcast, and I haven't done one of these in a while, but I thought it would be cool to do a video podcast this week, specifically relating to my themed article that I do every week called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And as a added bonus, I'm going to do this. That's right. It's the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly theme. Yes, it's our theme to this thing, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And I'm not really good at fading in and out the background music and all that stuff, so I'm just going to stop it. But that's our Good, the Bad, and the Ugly theme, because that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Bengals game. We're going to talk about the good stuff that happened in the Bengals game, the bad stuff that happened in the Bengals game, and if there was any, ugly stuff that happened in the Bengals game. I mean, as we know, the Steelers came out of that game 29-14 victors. It looked like it might be a shootout at the beginning, and as it turned out, the good guys took control of the game and won. So let's get going with what the good, the bad, and the ugly are, and I always start with the good. It's an old micromanagement tip, by the way. Start by telling the good things and then lead into the bad things. Start by making people happy, then make them miserable. Yes, that's my goal in life, to make you happy first before I ruin your day. No, hopefully that's not what happens. Anyway, the good. Let's start with the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Boz, as a matter of fact, Chris Boswell. Boswell has been money. If you haven't seen the movie Swingers with Vince Vaughn, you got to watch it, because that's who Chris Boswell is. He's money. He's so money, he doesn't even know he's money. He may be a wizard and all that, but, he is just money. Now, here's the first thing, and the reason I call him out, because Stan Savran and Charlie Batch were doing the post-game show, and Savran's trying to talk about how Boswell needs a nickname. He has a nickname! It's the Wizard of Boz. It's his Twitter handle, for gosh sakes. So don't give him another. How can you get a better nickname than the Wizard of Boz? I'm the king of nicknames. I love nicknames. Nicknames are my passion. He's already got one. Stop giving him another one. That's a great nickname. So look, if you want to give him another one, call him Money. That's what I do. He's money. Boswell was great, as usual. He hit 5 field goals. He was consistent. His kickoffs were either deep in the end zone or limited return yardage. He has been a find. There's just no other way to put it. He's been a find. And I was playing Madden recently, and I blew it, and I didn't offer him enough money on the contract, and he split. So hopefully that doesn't happen for real for us. So that's one of the good things. Let's go to the next good thing. Ben Roethlisberger. Since the Jacksonville game, Ben has been better. He was better against Kansas City, and he was again better last week. No big turnovers, protected the ball well. It was not one of those, blow out the windows kind of performances, but he had the people where they needed to be. He made good reads. He hit open receivers. It was a great throw. There's a couple really great throws. The first touchdown to Antonio Brown on a quick slant, that was a great throw. Threaded the needle, got it right behind, just past the defender. And then even Tony Romo was talking about The throw he makes across the field to Antonio Brown, splitting a high-low defender, that was an amazing throw. So I think we can put to rest all this talk about Ben not having it anymore. He still got it. We all said he still has it. We know he was being facetious when he said that. He had a really nice day. 14 to 24, 224 yards, 2 TDs, and no interceptions, and a passer rating of 117.4. That's a high-quality day. That's some high-quality quarterbacking right there. It was pretty good day. Pretty good day. Can't complain. If we have been doing that kind of consistent performance from here on out, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell had another outstanding game. 35 carries, 134 yards, 3 receptions for 58 yards. That's 192 total yards from scrimmage. Pretty darn good day, wouldn't you say? Ringing the bell. I wish I had a bell. I would ding, ding, ding the bell, but I don't have one. I need to get one. Maybe I should talk to Joe Kuzma and say, Joe, I need a bell so I can ring the bell when we talk about Le'Veon. Really solid day. Some unbelievable, runs. And luckily this time they weren't called back by holding penalties. So it's a fantastic thing. The one catch that he had out of the backfield, Ben dumps it off to him and he goes for, a nice long run afterwards. Basically face plants Drake Kirkpatrick, I think, with a stiff arm. Just some amazing moves. Bell looks like the Bell we're used to. Hopefully that continues as we move forward in the season. I see no reason to expect it to not continue, provided that they continue to feed him the rock. Looks very good. Let's talk about Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree. People have been talking about Bud Dupree in the same sentence, in the same breath as Jarvis Jones. Stop it right now. Bud Dupree is not Jarvis Jones. Bud Dupree is not a bust. Bud Dupree has 3 sacks so far this year. Bud Dupree looked amazing on Sunday. Both those sacks, the speed, the explosion, he looks good, in run defense for the most part. I was really pleased with Bud Dupree's performance, and he deserves a call-out in the good for having 2 sacks in one game. Hey, let's also talk about the other guy on the other side of the ball, that rookie, because I'm really starting to like that T.J. Watt pick, aren't you? TJ, he comes in, he gets a nice sack underneath on Andy Dalton. He made some nice stops in the run game. He was out in coverage. Dalton, was frazzled at some point, but part of that was due to the pressure being put on him by everybody, and frankly, Cameron Hayward, Tyson Alualu playing for Stephon Tuitt, Watt, and Bud Dupree, and even Chickalo when he was in. I mean, Harrison was in for some snaps, but it's a nice look when you've got Watt coming in off one side, Dupree coming in off both the other side. Those guys have some speed. They've got some intangibles. They've got some hand fighting skills. Watt's got a nice move, push move on the inside where he's doing a swim move. Very good stuff. Really encouraged by what we see so far out of T.J. Watt. The guy has a great motor, which we knew. Looks really good. And then we have one of my favorite things that happened in the game. And you probably know where I'm going with this, right? It was the fake punt. How cool was that? How cool was the fake punt? It was so awesome. Thank goodness for Robert Golden. He remains, he had his chance to start, didn't quite work out. But he remains a special teams mainstay. And it's for stuff just like this that we're lucky that he's still around. Because he recognized that, the guy who was going to pick the gunner off is coming in too far, leaving it wide open. He's too tight. The gunner's going to be able to go, and that's Darius Hayward-Bay. And boom, hits him for 44 yards. It would have been fantastic had it gone for a touchdown. It didn't, but still, what a great play. It was fun. My brother, who is, I have 2 brothers. One's a Bengals fan. I can't believe I just said that. But it's true. Sorry, it's true. I'm not really. Sorry, not sorry. My other brother is out here in New Jersey, so we live right near Philadelphia, so he's an Eagles fan. And to be fair to him, he's been an Eagles fan even when they stink, so he's not just a bandwagon guy jumping on the bandwagon for the Eagles this year because they appear to be pretty good. But he texted me right after that, and he goes, "That's just rubbing it in, man." And I'm like, no, that was awesome. It was a great play, and really, I think in many ways catapulted the Steelers the rest of that half to just continue to take control. fantastic sight adjustment by Robert Golden. Recognition was great, and the execution was really good. So it was really nice to see that come off. The other thing I will say, because we're going to talk about this when we start to get to the bad, is early on in the game, Carlos Dunlap, while he didn't get a sack, the offensive line didn't give up a sack, Carlos Dunlap was still being disruptive. He pushed Ben off his spot at least once. He hit his arm on one throw, and essentially, had that continued without an adjustment, probably he was going to get around Chris Hubbard at some point and hit Ben and make for a sack. It didn't work out that way. Why? Because partially we made some offensive line adjustments at the end of the first half as we were going into the second half. David DeCastro was giving some help to Chris Hubbard against Dunlap, and it worked out really well because in the second half, that pressure did not ever seem as noticeable as it was in the first half. Bengals weren't really able to get close, and I thought that was a great coaching adjustment by the Steelers to make the necessary changes that they needed to make sure that Dunlap did not continue to be disruptive. The last good thing I've got for this particular game is the second half defense. Last week, it was the first half defense that held Kansas City to something ridiculous like 15 yards and 1 first down. Well, this time it was the second half defense. As I said in the beginning of the game, kind of looked like it might be a shootout, right? And, the Steelers and the Bengals are trading touchdowns. Ben drives down, we get a touchdown. They come back, get a touchdown. We get a touchdown, they get a touchdown. It wasn't, you started to wonder, wow, geez, is it going to be whoever has the ball last that's going to win? Where's the defense? And we'll talk about the first half defense when we get to bad. But the second half defense, really good, really solid, right? Again, the pressure dictating part of that. The coverage, we had 2 interceptions. Joe Hayden gets his first interception as a Bengal, picking off, Andy Dalton. Will Gay gets another one. The first interception he's ever gotten as a Steeler that he didn't return for a touchdown. It's unbelievable. Too bad. Sorry, Will. You were a little far back to take that one to the house. I know you wanted to, though. But, great play, great recognition. Joe Hayden, let me just, we've been spouting this for a couple weeks. Joe and I talked about it on the preview. But Joe makes the play this week. He makes a play that gets his name out there in the good way, right? We've been talking about how nobody's talking about Joe Hayden. John Ledyard tweeted about this during the game. Joe and I talked about it pre-game. We've been talking about it in-house for at least 2 weeks. How great of a pickup is Joe Hayden for the Steelers? How fantastic and how stupid do the Browns look right now? Okay, admittedly, the Browns have their own other additional problems that make them look foolish and silly. But letting Joe Hayden go at this point looks like a huge miscalculation on their part. The guy is playing at an extremely high level, and he is absolutely beloved by the team. They love this guy. Mike Tomlin is just gooey about him. And I get it because I'm happy about it. It's fantastic. I just can't believe it's so good. He's playing like a shutdown corner. He's playing like all-pro level Joe Hayden. So let's hope that continues because it can only help Artie Burns, who has looked pretty good. He's gotten burnt a couple times. He's made a couple mistakes. But when he's gotten in and when he's stayed close, he's been defending the ball really well, high-pointing the ball on one point on A.J. Green. And, he missed. A.J. Green got a high catch on him early in the first half that Artie went for the interception, didn't get it because the ball was just so high. But had that ball been any lower, he'd have picked that, and who knows, it would have been maybe a pick six. Artie's been playing well, but Joe Hayden's just been playing fantastic, out of his mind. It's a fantastic, it's almost a steal for the Steelers. So I'm really pleased by the way the defense has been playing for the most part. But, what was it? I think 34, 35 yards, something like that in the second half. It got to a point where my most popular tweet ever, I tweeted out a picture of Dalton, who on fourth down decided he was just tired of being pounded into the ground by the Steelers' pressure, and so he threw the ball away on fourth down. Even Tony Romo was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You can't throw the ball away at fourth down!" Oh! But he did. He threw the ball away on fourth down. And the ball goes over on downs to the Steelers, right? Hey, great. But you kind of feel for the poor guy. The red rifle. All right, sorry, not sorry. He quit. in my opinion. Andy Dalton quit on that team with that throw. And maybe it's because he has no offensive line, as I have been saying since the draft. When you don't draft offensive linemen and let your offensive linemen go, you're making an error. And it sure looked like it in the second half last week. So now we get to the bad. So the first bad, let's talk about first half Chris Hubbard. He didn't let Carlos Dunlap get a sack, which is why I'm not putting him in the ugly category. But he also was not controlling Carlos Dunlap. Carlos Dunlap, as I said earlier, was disruptive in the first half against Chris Hubbard. Marcus Gilbert is a glaring loss for the Steelers. When he is not there, when he is there, let's put it this way, when he is there, nobody worries about the right side of the line. He hasn't given up a sack in forever. He is absolutely one of the best right tackles in the game, if not the best right tackle in the game right now. And it is a downgrade. As good as Chris Hubbard can play, which is pretty good, it's still a downgrade when he has to come in for Marcus Gilbert. And he was not really capable of handling Carlos Dunlap on his own on Sunday. As I mentioned, he hit Ben once. He pushed him off his mark at least one time. And those kind of adjustments disrupt the quarterback, right? They disrupt the flow. Even if you don't get the sack, it's beneficial from the standpoint of the defense because you're throwing him offline. And it mattered. I think he missed both of those passes. So Chris Hubbard, if I could do the Madden upgrade, I would give him a +1 on pass blocking. It needs to get better. But admittedly, Carlos Dunlap's it's a tough task. So they adjusted, and that was good. Now let's talk about the first half defense. I don't know what was going on there. Was it that the Bengals had scripted plays that were unique that the Steelers hadn't seen yet, hadn't adjusted to it? Was it that we weren't being as aggressive as we might have been? Was it luck? Was it just happenstance? A.J. Green looked like he was going to take over the game in the first half. Andy Dalton is on target in the first half. Joe Mixon's running all over the place for a couple of runs in the first half. And I think Zach Metker tweeted that he was talking to, oh no, it wasn't Zach. Zach, I'm sorry, I'm giving you credit when it's not. It was Eric, my boy Eric, who mentioned that he was listening to Locked On Bengals podcast just for fun. That's not fun, man. Why are you doing that? That's not fun. And they were talking about how if they'd have just run Joe Mixon in the second half, they'd have won the game. Baloney. Bull hockey. It wouldn't have happened. Look, he had a couple nice runs in the first half, but he also had a bunch of runs for either nothing or 1 to 2 yards. I think the Steelers would have been fine with Joe Mixon or no Joe Mixon. The offensive line is just that bad for the Bengals. But they didn't look great in the first half. So thank God they got it under control and in the second half turned it around. I'm going to call Antonio Brown out on the bad list. Not because he had a bad game, but he did one thing in the game that really ticked me off. It was a mistake. I'm sure he would admit it's a mistake. That mistake was letting that punt go that then pinned the Steelers way down in their end zone. He should have never backed off that punt. He had the room to catch it, even if he does a fair catch. I don't care. You can't let that ball go. There was too much room, and it was a mistake. So I'm giving you a bad grade, Antonio, because you never get a bad grade. You never get a bad grade because you're always consistent. You even had a decent game catching the ball. So I can't really say you were bad, but that was a bad move. So I'm calling you out on bad. And then I got two more, and the big one is this, red zone. And, we were terrible. Let's just admit it. We were flat out awful in the red zone. And at one point I tweeted, though, I don't know if it's a red zone problem or if it's a short yardage problem. Because even we had several 3rd and 1s. We had a 4th and 1. We couldn't pick up a damn yard. That's short yardage. I mean, we were terrible on short yardage. I don't know. Look, I'm a completely non-avowed, non-Haley hater. I like Todd Haley. I am fine with Todd Haley. I think he has extended Ben's career. He has stopped him from getting crushed as much as he was getting killed under Bruce Arians. I'm not a Todd Haley hater. I'm not a Todd Haley denier either. I think Todd Haley may have problems calling short yardage plays. I think he tries to get too cute sometimes. I think he outthinks himself sometimes, but they need to be less obvious. It feels like every time we have a short yardage play, the defense knows exactly what we're going to run. And that's either really great film analysis or Todd Haley is far too obvious, even when he's trying to outthink himself. And then there's the one call, which was down in the red zone, that has gotten a lot of play. Of course, it's third. There's only 7 seconds left in the game or something like that. I think it was more than that because we thought we called timeout at 7 seconds. And the original play call is a pass. Ben has said that Todd Haley in the headset told him to check out of it to a run, and he's been pretty vocal about not being happy about that. I get it. When you're 7 yards, 8 yards back, you're not going to check into a run. When your time is running out, you want 2 shots into the end zone there, not let's have a run and then be glad we got a field goal. If that is true, which I have no reason to doubt Ben, I have no reason to think he's not telling the truth. I'm sure Todd Haley did call it. If that's the case, that's just bad calling. It's a mistake. You can't check into that play, and Ben should have checked out of it. Look, I understand you're trying to run what the coaches call, but if you know it's that bad, check out of it, dude. Take a little initiative at that point, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to cause anarchy on the team, but yeah, like they listen to me. I have a bad feeling about short yardage, and it sure as hell felt like the red zone was the only thing that could stop the Steelers. As soon as they got to the 19-yard line, they were done. They couldn't get any closer. They couldn't do what they were doing. As soon as they hit that red zone, man, once it got to be third down, I got to kick a field goal, can't do it. It was brutal. And luckily, as Tomlin said, he's not going to overthink it because they're still getting points and they're getting in the red zone an awful lot. But if you convert those 5 field goals that they got into 5 touchdowns, this game was a blowout. And they should have been able to do that at least for 4 of those. Maybe 3, but maybe 4. They should have been able to at least end up with touchdowns. So that's the big one. I have one more, which is the refs stink. Because they stink. The refs stink. Holding call on Le'Veon Bell, completely missed. Not to mention Vontaze Burfict, which I'll talk about in ugly. The refs stink. Let me just leave it at that. So let's move to ugly. And I got 2 things to talk about in ugly. Let's get to Vontaze Burfict first. This asshat, Vontaze Burfict. He is. Joe's not going to like me using that word, and I apologize to anybody who thinks it's offensive, but he's an asshat, okay? Vontaze Burfict is a punk. Look, I tend to not judge people based on things they say or situations that I don't know enough about. I base it on how they act, the actions that they take. Kicks Rosie Nix in the face. Later on, and there's another clip of this, as Rosie Nix is walking by, smacks him in the face. I'm now convinced that any time Vontaze Burfict just points at somebody else, throw a flag on him because he obviously did something. Every single time he'd do it, he would then go, "Oh no, look what he did!" because he's hoping to get a reaction, right? That's his game plan now at this point. Let me do something completely outrageous, get the other player to react, then I can point at him and the ref will see him because they always see the guy who does it second, right? And I'll get a 15-yard penalty on whoever. All credit to Rosie Nix, who's fantastic. I love the guy. I love following him on Twitter. I think he's hilarious in his tweets. But he kept a cool head. And it couldn't have been easy. It couldn't have been easy. I mean, this guy, I don't know how you can defend him at this point. I just don't get it. And if the league chooses to turn a blind eye to his continued nonsense, look, I'm the first one to say, I don't wish players hurt. Go for his knees. Somebody take his damn knees out and get him out of the damn game. He doesn't even deserve to be playing. He is just that. He's the epitome of a dirty, stinking rat. Screw you, Vontaze Burfict. And if you want to come for me, I'm old and I'll still take your knees out and kick your butt. I don't care. I'm old and I'm fat and I'll still do it. Because I fight dirty, by the way. So that way we're a good match, you and me. Man, I fight dirty. But I do it in a fight, not on the field. Clean play on the field. Then we got the last thing. The last thing I want to talk about is Martavis. And let me start off by saying that one of my personal pet peeves is rushing to judgment. if we all could take a minute and realize our perspective is our perspective, but we aren't walking in somebody else's shoes. We don't know somebody else's world. So to have what I consider to be the utmost level of arrogance to suggest that you can understand someone else's situation to the point where you're able to call them out is absurd. I tweeted out today that I love Martavis. Now I don't know Martavis. All right, I don't know him. I don't know him from Adam. I've never met Martavis Bryant. I haven't met the guy, right? But I make my opinions based on actions, and the actions that this guy showed in the offseason. Look, he was a kid, and yeah, he got caught smoking pot. I'm a person who thinks smoking pot shouldn't be illegal nationwide. I'm a person who thinks that for these athletes, smoking pot is a much better alternative than opioid pain medication. First of all, the pot's probably not going to kill him, and the opioids might. That's just my opinion. Whichever way you fall on it, that's cool. That's your opinion, right? My opinion is it shouldn't be illegal, but it is, and he did some dumb things, getting caught, and he got suspended. But you know what? Instead of wallowing in self-pity, instead of doing absolutely nothing to change his ways, he wised up. He sought the right kind of counseling. He sought a means to get himself away from the situations that were placing him in that. And he busted his butt to get back. Now that to me speaks volumes. Much more so than a guy who is still a young man spouting off based out of pure frustration. Imagine yourself. You have a goal, right? You have worked as hard as you possibly can to achieve that goal, and it's just for whatever reason, it's not happening. Look, it may be that it's taking longer for Martavis to readjust to the NFL. It may be that it's taking longer for him to reacclimate himself and the timing with Ben Roethlisberger. It may just be a situation where as time progresses, it'll get better. Mike Tomlin said today in practice last week, Martavis looked great. He had a great week of practice. This is a kid who was blocking his butt off down the field, which is a selfless act and does not show an individual who is all about me, okay? And I get that the statements, even starting with the draft where Juju Smith-Schuster's not my replacement, and now, Juju's not better than me and all that stuff. Look, it's a bad look. But again, imagine you're a guy who is full of hormones, he's young, right? And is looking at a very, very, very limited earning span, okay? Martavis lost a year to his suspension, admittedly, through nobody's fault but his own, okay? I'm granting that. But these NFL guys have a limited, extremely limited earning life potential. Yes, the amount of money they're going to earn is ridiculous and extravagant and probably more than anybody should be earning for playing a game. But that's what they do, right? And, I equate it to this. Look, I'm a software developer in my real life full-time job, right? I write software, and I make good money to do so. On average, in the 20 years that I have been doing it, if I wanted to average it out, I've made over $2 million, right? That's good money, right? But it doesn't feel like it over 20 years, okay? But I have the ability to continue making money at that rate as long as I can think and write code. Martavis Bryant has maybe 6 to 8 years to earn his money. After that, his earning potential goes right in the toilet, okay? It's based on whatever his degree may be and whatever his capabilities are moving forward. A lot of these guys make bad business decisions, and I'm not saying he will. It looks like he's gotten his life back in order, and he's making smart decisions, and I hope he is. I respect the hell out of Martavis Bryant for doing what he did to come back. I do not view him as a self-centered me person. I view him as a frustrated young man who simply wants to be successful and is frustrated because it's not happening as fast as he'd like. And you be the one who has never said anything out of bounds, that has never acted out of frustration, never acted out of anger and said something you regret. We've all done it, okay? And to hold these people to a higher standard than ourselves is absurd. People do it all the time. But the idea that we're going to rush to judgment on Martavis Bryant because of minor flaws in judgment that any of us could make, because when you're frustrated and you're angry and you've worked hard for something and it's not coming as fast as you want and you're very young, you make mistakes. Okay? I don't like that he put the stuff that he put out on Twitter. I don't like how the whole situation is handled, but I can understand that he sees his ability to get that big contract at the end of his rookie contract slipping away. And that has to be frustrating. You don't put in the kind of work he put in over the off seasons and as he's getting ready to come back to the NFL, if you're not striving for that big payday. You want to be successful. You want to do the right things. So I have mad respect for Martavis Bryant based on his actions. And I can forgive outbursts in frustration. I do it all the time. And I'm old. So a young man doing it is no surprise to me. Martavis, I know you're not going to listen to this, but that's okay. I love you. I respect you. I wish you nothing but the best. I hope that you will learn and keep this stuff in-house instead of out in the world, because you're making your coach mad, and it is a distraction. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I believe in you. I believe in that young man. And it's not just because I have a signed Martavis jersey and a signed Martavis helmet and all that stuff. It's because I believe in the young man. I think his dedication and his work ethic is going to pay off. It just takes more time than I think he thought it would. But and Joe Kuzma and I have talked about this, I think very, very soon Martavis Bryant is going to have a blowout game, and you know what? All this nonsense is going to go away. It's the drama. Zach Meckler posted a fake sign that said, you know, it's like you have those weeks on the job things, right? Weeks on the job without an accident. He posted weeks in the Steelers locker room without drama. And I'm telling you right now, it's never getting off of zero. Zach and I've talked to you about this offline. It's never getting off of zero. The entire season, it's going to stay at 0 weeks without drama. I would love it to hit 1 week. If it does, we should all have a celebration. But I don't see that happening. You know, it's unfortunate, but you know, let's try and be human about it and understand that Martavis Bryant is a young man who is living a different life than any of us ever will. Yes, it is a life that has a lot of upside, but it also has a lot of downside. And, you know, it's easy to react out of anger when you're frustrated, and one of the internet trolls with their you know, anonymous web muscles decides to try and get under your skin. I get it. Look, you know, people are nasty on the internet. They're just nasty people sometimes out there, and they say things that are beyond the pale a lot of times. And I'm surprised more people don't act out on it, because, you know, look, they're human beings, man. It was Patton Oswalt. I'm going to leave you guys with this, and maybe this is going to be my sign-off from now on. I like this sign-off. I was watching a Patton Oswalt comedy special the other day. It was very funny. It was on Netflix. And he said that his ex-wife, who passed away, unfortunately, had a saying, and it went kind of like this. The world is chaos. It's chaos out there. Be kind. You know, as I said, I'm old. I have some perspective with age. The stuff I used to do in my youth, I don't do anymore. And the way I look and treat people has changed. And it's this. Be kind. Don't assume you know somebody's story, because you don't. You might think you do, but you don't. Unless you're living in their shoes, you don't know their story. So from now on, everybody, it's chaos out there. Be kind. All right, that's it for me in this edition of Steel City Underground Video Podcast. I'm going to go upstairs and play some Madden. You should too. All right, everybody. Talk to you later, and it's chaos out there. Be kind. See ya.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.